It's 3 in the morning and you're still awake. Not because you can't sleep, but because your mind won't let you. You've been replaying the same 5-minute conversation for the past 3 hours, analyzing every word, every pause, every facial expression. You've constructed 17 different meanings from a single sentence someone said 6 days ago. And somewhere in the loop between what they meant and what you think they meant, you've lost track of what's actually real. If you've ever spent more time thinking about your life than actually living it, this is for you. Because what happens when you think too much isn't wisdom. It's a quiet kind of prison. And most people don't realize they're trapped until they've spent years behind bars made of their own thoughts. It always starts innocently. You want to make better decisions, understand people, avoid mistakes. So, you think, you analyze, you consider every angle, and at first this feels smart. But somewhere along the way, something shifts. The thinking that was supposed to help you starts to hurt you. You're no longer solving problems, you're creating them. Your mind becomes a factory, manufacturing scenarios that don't exist, conversations that never happened, disasters that haven't arrived. You receive a text. 7 words. Hey, can we talk later today? And instead of responding, your brain launches into investigative mode. What does talk mean? Is it serious? Did I do something wrong? Within minutes, you've imagined the entire conversation, prepared your defense, and felt the emotional weight of an argument that hasn't happened. This is analysis paralysis. When thinking becomes so consuming, it prevents action entirely. Every decision becomes monumental. Choosing what to eat, sending an email, making a phone call. When you think too much, nothing is simple anymore. Everything carries impossible weight. But this is just the surface. Underneath the paralysis, something darker is happening. Your mind has a replay button, and it's stuck. The same moment, over and over. The thing you said 3 years ago, the opportunity you missed, the choice you made that changed everything. You don't want to think about it anymore. You've analyzed it from every angle. But understanding doesn't stop the loop. Your brain keeps dragging you back, forcing you to watch the same scene again as if repetition will somehow change the past. This is the difference between reflection and rumination. Reflection looks at the past to learn. Rumination looks at the past to punish. And when you think too much, you don't live in one timeline. You live in 5. The past you keep revisiting. The present you're barely experiencing. The 3 different futures you're trying to predict and prevent. The exhaustion of overthinking isn't just mental. It's existential. You're tired of your own mind. Tired of the voice that never stops narrating, analyzing, questioning. Your brain convinces you that if you just think harder, longer, you'll finally figure it out. But you won't. Because some things aren't meant to be figured out. Some things are meant to be released. But while you're trapped in this loop, something invisible is weighing you down. Right now, part of your mind is somewhere else. Holding that thing you said last week, carrying the decision you haven't made, gripping the conversation you need to have. This is cognitive load. The mental weight of unresolved thoughts. When you think too much, you're juggling 17 different thoughts simultaneously, each demanding attention, each pulling at your consciousness. This is why simple tasks feel impossible. Your brain is overloaded, running too many programs at once. But the weight isn't just cognitive, it's emotional. Overthinking seeps into your body. Tension in your shoulders, anxiety in your chest, exhaustion in your bones. Most people don't recognize this as overthinking. They think it's just who they are. So they carry it, day after day, until the weight becomes so familiar they forget what lightness feels like. You tell yourself you're being thoughtful, careful, but thoughtfulness doesn't leave you depleted. Overthinking does. What's the one thought that keeps circling back no matter how many times you've tried to resolve it? Type in the comments, "I overthink," and finish that sentence. What do you overthink? Conversations? Decisions? The past? Your worth? You're not broken for thinking this way. Your mind learned to overthink as a way to protect you. And by naming it here, you're taking the first step toward understanding it. Your comment might be exactly what someone else needs to feel less alone. If this is resonating, hit that like button. Subscribe for more truth like this. Now, let's talk about why you really can't stop. You think if you analyze every possibility, nothing will catch you off guard. If you plan every conversation in your head, you'll never say the wrong thing. If you replay the past enough, you'll prevent it from happening again. This is the lie overthinking whispers. That thinking equals control. That mental preparation equals safety. So you rehearse conversations that never happen. Prepare for arguments that don't arrive. Build entire narratives about what people think, what's going to happen, what's going to go wrong. But in reality, nothing has happened. You've experienced suffering for events that exist only in your imagination, and when the actual moment arrives, it's nothing like what you prepared for. All that thinking was for nothing. The more you think, the less you actually understand. Understanding comes from experience, not simulation. But your mind doesn't want you to know that. Because if thinking doesn't give you control, you'd have to face the terrifying truth. Life is uncertain. And that uncertainty is unbearable. So you keep thinking. Because overthinking feels like doing something. But it's not. It's fear wearing the mask of intelligence. And beneath that fear, there's something even deeper. Overthinking isn't about the thoughts. It's about what they protect you from. The uncertainty of not knowing. The vulnerability of being wrong. The possibility of being hurt again. Somewhere in your past, something taught you that thinking ahead, analyzing everything, preparing for every outcome was the only way to stay safe. Maybe you were blindsided. Maybe someone hurt you unexpectedly. Maybe you made a mistake that cost you something precious. Your mind learned, if I think about everything, I can protect myself. I can prevent the pain. I can control what happens next. But you're not preventing pain. You're experiencing it in advance. You're living through every worst-case scenario before it even has a chance to happen. And most of the time, it never does. You're terrified of uncertainty because certainty feels like safety. So, your mind obsessively tries to solve the unsolvable, predict the unpredictable, control the uncontrollable. Beneath that is something vulnerable. The fear of being hurt, of making the wrong choice, of trusting and being betrayed, of trying and failing. Your mind tells you that thinking will keep you safe. But safety isn't found in thinking. It's in accepting that life will hurt sometimes and you'll survive anyway. But instead, you think. And while you're lost in your head, something devastating is happening. You're sitting with someone you love, but you're not really there. They're talking, but you're thinking about what you said earlier, analyzing their tone, preparing your next response instead of listening. The moment is happening, but you're missing it. You're too busy being in your head to be in your life. This is what thinking too much costs. Presence, connection, the actual experience of being alive. Relationships suffer because you're never fully there. You second-guess every text, replay every conversation, read into silences, create meaning where there is none. Opportunities pass because you're too busy analyzing. By the time you've considered every risk, the door has closed. Someone who thought less and acted more has already walked through it. You lose trust in your own intuition. You can no longer tell the difference between what you actually feel and what you think you should feel. And here's the cruelest irony. The pain you're trying to avoid by thinking so much, you create it yourself. You overthink until you create problems in relationships that were fine. You doubt yourself into missing opportunities. You analyze yourself into anxiety that wasn't there before. Your brain has created a highway, a neural pathway reinforced thousands of times. Thought leads to thought, leads to thought. And suddenly, you're 10 miles deep in a spiral that started with something insignificant. This is how overthinking becomes habit. Every time you ruminate, you strengthen that pathway. Your brain learns, this is what we do now. This is how we respond to uncertainty, to anxiety, to life, and it's addictive. Sometimes, after hours of thinking, you'll have a moment of clarity. Your brain releases dopamine. You feel that, aha. So next time you're uncertain, your brain reaches for the same solution. Think, analyze, figure it out. Maybe this time you'll get that clarity again. But most of the time, you just spiral. Beyond the neurology, there's identity. You've been overthinking so long you believe this is who you are. I'm analytical, I'm thoughtful, I'm careful, and those sound like strengths. But there's a difference between being thoughtful and being trapped. You confuse mental noise with intelligence, anxiety with awareness, paralysis with wisdom, and you hold on to it even though it's destroying you because you don't know who you'd be without it. You're not solving anything anymore. You're just cycling. And recognizing that is the first step to breaking free. The most uncomfortable truth: not everything is meant to be understood. Not every question has an answer. Not every situation can be figured out. Accepting that is what breaks the cycle. Your mind wants resolution, clarity, to understand why things happened, what people meant, what the right choice is. But life doesn't always offer that. Sometimes things are ambiguous. Sometimes there is no right answer. Learning to sit with uncertainty without reaching for thought to fill the void, that's where freedom begins. This doesn't mean you stop thinking. It means you learn the difference between thinking and spiraling. Thinking has purpose. It explores, considers, decides, then moves on. Spiraling loops endlessly, going nowhere new. When you catch yourself overthinking, the question isn't, what's the answer? It's, am I thinking or am I spiraling? If you're spiraling, the answer isn't to think harder. It's to stop. Shift from what if to what is. What if they're mad becomes what is actually happening right now? This grounds you, pulls you from the hypothetical nightmare into reality, which is almost always less catastrophic than what you imagined. When your mind won't stop, get out of your head and into your body. Feel your feet. Notice your breath. Move. Because overthinking lives in abstraction. Your body is the anchor back to what's real. The first breath of mental silence is disorienting. When your mind stops the endless narration, there's a moment of emptiness. It feels uncomfortable because you've been living in noise for so long. But then, something else emerges. Clarity. Not from thinking harder, but from thinking less. The clarity of intuition. The wisdom buried beneath all that mental chatter. You start to trust yourself again. To make decisions based on how they feel, not how much you've analyzed them. To respond authentically instead of strategically. Your energy returns. The exhaustion lifts because you're no longer spending every ounce of mental energy on hypothetical scenarios. You have bandwidth for actual things happening in your actual life. Real connection becomes possible. When you're not overthinking every word, you can actually hear people. When you're not analyzing every interaction, you can actually experience it. And the lightness. The lightness of letting thoughts pass without chasing them. A thought arises, and instead of grabbing it, you watch it float by. This doesn't happen overnight. But each time you catch yourself spiraling and choose to stop, you weaken that old pathway and strengthen a new one. The one that leads to presence, to peace, to living instead of simulating life. Here's the paradox. You can't think your way out of thinking too much. You have to stop thinking about it. Release the mental grip and trust you'll be okay without constant analysis. Overthinking isn't wisdom. It's not intelligence. It's a defense mechanism that's overstayed its welcome. A strategy that once protected you but now imprisons you. What if you trusted yourself more than your thoughts? What if you believed you could handle uncertainty without solving it first? What if you accepted that some things are unknowable, and that's okay? Your mind is powerful. But it's not always right. Sometimes your thoughts are just noise. Sometimes your analysis is anxiety dressed as insight. Learning to discern the difference is one of the most important things you'll ever do. You don't have to figure it all out right now. The moment you stop trying to figure it all out is the moment you start actually living. Peace isn't found in having all the answers. It's found in accepting you don't need them. You've spent enough time in your head. It's time to come back to your life. The one happening right now, in this moment, whether you're thinking about it or not. So, stop thinking about it and start living it.